Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. I'm Matt Dillahunty. This is the Hang Up right here on the line. And I know that normally when this show starts, there's a solid 2 minutes of dad rock with a nice countdown timer. And I think we should put a poll up to see if you guys think that there should be 2 minutes of dad rock intro, or 1 minute of dad rock intro, or 17 minutes and 20 seconds of dad rock intro, or just more or less in general. Those are the types of important questions, the hard-hitting investigative journalist questions you're likely to have addressed here on the Hang Up. I probably won't spend too much time actually talking about the president of the United States, Donald Trump, and the co-president, Elon Musk. Nothing's really happened. I mean, they didn't end the war in Ukraine within a day like they said they would. And in fact, instead, he's basically in dueling trash talk sessions with Vladimir Zelensky. And Trump is referring to him as the comedian dictator who had better be careful or he will lose his country, and accused him of scamming Biden. He's basically laid the groundwork to lay the blame for Russia's invasion of Ukraine at Zelensky's feet. So all you Jill Stein voters out there who were advocating on behalf of Ukraine, yeah, bad choice. And by the way, for all of you who did it because of Gaza, bad choice. With regard to Gaza, he's looking at possibly turning it into a Riviera style place with hotels and things there. You know, let's just move the Palestinians out. They can maybe come back. And, you know, the United States isn't going to, that's not, okay, it's 17 minutes and 2 seconds, but you can do 1 minute and 17 seconds if you like, I guess. We were getting the poll sorted. But it's very frustrating to watching this and saying, all the people who had the best intentions, who were warned that their best intentions were paving the road to hell. How you feeling now? Eric Adams is the Democrat mayor of New York City, who was under the Biden administration's Justice Department. You know, the one that Trump and them would like to pretend was a weaponized Justice Department, going after a Democrat mayor for corruption, a Democrat mayor who evidently decided to suck up to and be supportive of and promoting Trump in exchange for the Department of Justice seemingly moving to dismiss his case. They're claiming that there's no quid pro quo here and that there's nothing, inappropriate at all. And yet 8 federal prosecutors have resigned in protest, and 4 of the deputy mayors have also quit City Hall. Now, there's nothing here to worry about. This is all normal. This is how business is done in the new Trump administration. We can have what appears to be open collusion, even across party lines. I find it a little strange that we know exactly what dirt they have hanging over the Democrats' heads. We don't know what dirt they have hanging over the Republicans' head, all those Republicans that signed up to be a party to this coup. I mean, it's a little strange that we know what the Democrats did, but we don't necessarily know what the Republicans did. But that's the weird thing, is that as somebody who's, on the side of lefty, progressive, liberal, left-wing, whatever you want to call it, I wanted Eric Adams to pay for what he did as well. I don't look for excuses for why the people who are ostensibly on my side of the issues, why Democrats, if they're fucking corrupt, they're corrupt and you take them out. And this is the reason why the Democrats, or one of the many reasons, I don't want to say the reason, one of the many reasons why Democrats keep pointing up on the short end of the stick, because Republicans no longer give a fuck who on their side is corrupt as long as they're on their side. As long as you can jump in and promote the MAGA hoorah group, nothing bad will ever happen to you. You'll never be held responsible for anything. It's great. And you can just blame DEI and wokeness for all of it. Hey, price of eggs hasn't changed. DEI. After years with no airplane fatalities, we've now had 3 or 4. And this is 1 month. We are today is the 19th of February, so we're 1 month into Trump's second administration. More airplane crashes have occurred. And for example, the CEO of GameStop has decided that they would like to sell off their French and Canadian assets. The current guess is that there's about 330 French stores and about 200 Canadian stores. So you're looking at a little over 500 GameStop stores that they're looking to sell. And what did their CEO say? Well, if you're interested in buying GameStop Canada or Micromania France, you can have high taxes, liberalism, socialism, progressivism, wokeism, and DEI included at no additional cost if you buy today. So there's the CEO of GameStop jumping on the right-wing talking point bandwagon of DEI bad, and DEI is the reason I'm going to have to sell off 500 of our stores, which is an absolute lie, a delusional lie. GameStop sold over 200 stores or closed 200 stores back in 2019. But before they can blame the Biden administration or stuff, and they did it to try and reboot GameStop. But you know why people aren't going to GameStop? Because everything's digital now, and GameStop's model is dead. Just like people aren't, going to blacksmiths anymore, except in very rare occasions. I don't know how GameStop didn't figure this out. I'm shocked that they have 500 stores in total, let alone just in France and Canada to get to sell off. But you can buy everything digitally. And while they make the controllers for the PlayStation and stuff cheaply and the batteries for those cheaply, I don't need a new controller every week or two. I just need one every few months, and that's not enough to keep GameStop in business. But I decided that since I'm the president of this show, and I get to say whatever I want, and I get to rename things however I want, for example, I live in Texas. And I'm renaming the Gulf of America. I'm renaming it the Gulf of Mexico. It's just as official and just as significant and just as important as Trump naming it a different direction. And so I figure if Trump can be, absolutely very much openly working with Russia and disparaging Zelensky in Ukraine, I would bring in my own unelected comedian dictator, Mr. Ian Harris. How are you? Whoops. There we go.
Hey, there we are. Oh man, I am doing well. I was going to suggest you name it the Gulf of Dillahunty. That sounds fun to me. That sounds, and you guys are down there. But.
There's already an area called the Gulf of Dillahunty, and I'm sorry, but you're not invited.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, well,
it's just the way it goes. How you doing?
Well, I'm good, man. I mean, all things considered, I can't. It's been a while since we've talked, but and a lot's happened, I guess. We're now Russia light, and
yeah.
I mean, it's just honestly, I can't. The things you're saying that you were talking about, I can't even believe where we are right now with just the Zelensky thing alone. That we are. I mean, the thing they're saying everything out loud now, which is crazy to me that they're saying it out loud, and not no one, but not as many people as you'd think are reacting, right? Because
Yeah.
they kept saying, no, you're being hyperbolic, you're being crazy. They're not Nazis. They're not following the Mein Kampf playbook. The Project 2025 isn't real. All these things. And now they're coming out and literally, I mean, if you or I walked into a place and did this anywhere in the
Right.
world, we'd be jumped and beaten, and everyone in the world knows what that is. And suddenly they're acting like they don't. I mean, it's insane to me, the place we are. And I'm honestly not even sure what to do about it. My family and I are literally, I know people get on me for this, but we're literally working on possibly moving out of the country. And I know people are like, oh, you're just gonna fold up and go, but I I don't know what else to do.
Well, I used to say stuff like that, and now I'm at the point where I can't fault anybody. I mean, if you're going to stay and fight, you stay and fight. What bugs me more than the people who are so frustrated and worn down and beaten down that they're ready to, hey, I've done everything I can to try to make this country live up to the Constitution and up to what it's supposed to be and to be better than it could be, and it keeps failing. At some point, I've got to look out for me and mine and my family and all that. I can't fault anybody. I mean, my passport has not been renewed, and I'm not planning to renew it because there's so much crap going on with the passport office that if Arden can't get a passport so that she can travel with me as herself, I'm not going. I mean, I will if I have to for work to make ends meet type thing. But, it's really wild watching really simple things. And this is embarrassing because there are people who are like, oh, this is Project 2025 and this is the master plan. And yes, elements of that are there. But as I watch this, what I see is a president and a handful of clueless buffoons, some of the least qualified individuals and most inappropriate individuals ever, being affirmed to positions and then making immediate snap judgments and firing people and making dramatic changes, not just so that we wind up with a vacuum, a power vacuum in a number of agencies, but a institutional knowledge vacuum, just having people around who know how the shit works so that things can get done somewhat efficiently. If you go wholesale firing people, you end up with plane crashes. You end up, oh, wait, we've got that. You end up with a bunch of other things. They're now firing immigration judges. Now, what reason could you possibly have if there's a serious immigration issue? If we are overrun with immigrants such that there will need to be cases, what reason could you possibly have for firing immigration judges wholesale in massive numbers in ways that they're reporting this doesn't make any sense? And the answer is, if you can say, we don't have enough judges in the system to do this, therefore we're going to start locking them up in Gitmo, we're going to start locking them up elsewhere, you can start with the institutional concentration camp style assessment of everything, which they've already said they're going to do. They're not going to use that language, at least not year one.
No.
But
well, they're already talking Guantanamo, and I mean, but there's some things that I honestly can't tell. I'm not, as you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but some of the stuff isn't even conspiracy anymore. But the thing I don't get is, like, there's one of the things they're doing with the, they're talking about proposing where you have to have your name on your birth certificate. I don't know if you've seen that. And people are saying, women, this means you can't vote if you changed your name after being married. I honestly think this is probably I bet you this was, I mean, it could be about making women not be able to vote. I think it's another one of these knee-jerk reactions to trans people, yes, where it's like, where they're saying, what's your name on your birth certificate? And they forgot, oh, women change their fucking names too.
Yeah, just like we're all women now. Under
But
their definition, by going at the moment of conception, um, we're all women.
it's it's bad shit. I mean, the things that they're doing, like with the Social Security stuff, where everyone keeps going, well, how could they have known that the system gave everybody without a birth date, without a known birth date, 1875? How could they have known that? Well, guess what? The people that you fucking fired that had been doing it, I think they knew how the system worked. Maybe don't fire the competent, qualified people who are doing the job and then come in and have no idea what you're doing and freak out and go, there's 20 million people over 150 on social getting checks. Really? How are they cashing these checks? Really? Are the
Yeah.
150-year-old dead people are cashing checks? Are they being sent to their house that they haven't lived in for 80 years because they've been dead? Like, how is this happening? It's mind-boggling that someone is even, that you can even hear that and with a straight face go, well, maybe there are millions of 150-year-old people cashing checks.
It's funny to me that they can immediately say, hey, how were they supposed to know that? Not only are you right that somebody there who they fired may have known that, but clearly somebody fucking knew it and informed them of it immediately. They're like,
Right.
oh, we know why that is. It's this reason. If you haven't done your due diligence to say, I think there's a problem here, and then step 2 is investigating to see, is there actually a problem? And you skipped that step and went immediately to step 3, which is let's solve the problem.
Right.
You have skipped the most important step because you can't know how to solve something until you've assessed whether or not there is a problem and what the problem is. If they would have talked to anybody about this, Elon wouldn't have looked stupid, although he doesn't care, because he wouldn't have come out and said something that's just absolutely patently, obviously ridiculous, that on its face, we can look at and go, there's no way that's right. There's got to be another explanation. And it turns out there's a really simple explanation that you would think some brilliant code-minded individual would find. But the truth is that Elon Musk is not especially smart. He's just rich. And so he's been sucked up to and told he's impressive for ages. I've never been impressed. I've never seen him do anything that's remotely impressive. And he is seemingly increasingly losing his mind. So when you have that level of power and that level of suck-upitude that's happening all the time, and no good reason to understand or empathize with anybody else in reality, you develop a mindset that, oh, not only can I fix this, but I'm the best one to fix it. And therefore, if I walk in here and say, ooh, that's a problem, let's do that, I have fixed the problem. I don't know, why are you guys even questioning me? And this is the way the Republicans are responding to him is, why are you guys even worried about Elon? He's so rich, he doesn't need anything. He's not gaming the system. There's nothing he could benefit. Hello? You don't think the richest man in the world doesn't want to be richer? You don't think that somebody with $400 billion isn't eyeing $1 trillion?
He literally said that he wants to be the world's first trillionaire. So, yeah. And also, you don't get to be $400 billion and not be greedy. Like, I think it's that the guy could fix so many of our problems. He could fix so many of society's problems on his own and has chosen not to. He obviously doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about me. He cares only about making more money. And the fact that I hear people like Joe Rogan, whatever, saying stuff like, oh, you think Elon cares about, yes, that's all he cares about is the money and the power. And there's that, I don't know if it's even a conspiracy going around, but I think there's some validity to it about the technocrats, the people that the reason they want Greenland and these Silicon Valley billionaires, Peter Thiel and these people that want to own little mini corporation countries and divide everything up and be the CEOs. And many of them have said democracy can't exist anymore. And they literally think that because they are billionaires, they're so narcissistic that they think they're the only way to have a society that they see as the way they want it to be. Oh, the way I want it to be is perfect because I'm a billionaire, and therefore I must run everything like a CEO. I mean, there's a handful of them that have said this and written this in books, and it's crazy to me because it's like it looks to me like that's what they are trying to do, and it's just all narcissism.
Yep. I tell you, we got some callers. We're going to go to callers here in just a second, especially since we get theist callers. I will get a list of upcoming shows and all that to make it our regular announcements here in just a couple minutes. As a reminder to everybody, we read out all the super chats at the end of the show. Yeah, everything super chat that comes in that's $10 or over, we read it out at the end of the show. And tonight we are aiming to start reading super chats around 7:45 or so that we can be done absolutely no later than 8:30, but closer to 8 o'clock would be better. And on that front, we've got callers. And so I don't want to make them wait. Let's hope that some of these callers, especially some of our theist callers, can give us some good reason to believe or find out that maybe we were wrong. So Bill is calling from California. Pronouns are he, him. Bill's a theist and says, God is real. Look around. Hey, Bill, how are you? You're on with Ian and Matt.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Well, you're telling us to look around and see God. What is it we should see that would identify a God?
I mean, when I look around, it feels too intelligent to not be. It seems like something started all this, whether it's a god, some sort of alien race, something like that. I just don't think it's all on purpose or by accident, I mean.
Okay. So basically, you're saying God is real because when you look around, you just can't imagine that it wasn't made by a God?
It just seems to point in that direction more than not, yes.
Well, that seems to me to be a failure of imagination on your part more than it is evidence for a God, right?
No.
No. So what is the evidence that you can identify that strongly and exclusively points to a God?
That's how I think. I just don't think it's possible that we are by accident.
Well, so none of us are claiming that by accident is a good assessment of natural processes. Natural processes are the way they are for reasons and operate in a way that isn't, typically viewed as accidental. But my apologies, Bill, but I'm looking for people to offer reasons to believe something, and you're not offering reasons to believe. You're just saying that you personally look around and find that belief is preferable or more warranted than not believing. And yet when I ask for evidence, you offer nothing.
Well, how do you think it all started?
Well, let's assume for a second that I don't know at all. I have no idea. I don't have to guess. That's the point. You don't have to guess. You don't have to pretend to know shit you don't know. You don't have to say, you know what? I have to believe something about the origin of the universe. No, you don't. Because if there's if there's two possibilities and you have no way of identifying which one of them is correct, why would you pick the other one or either of them?
I'm just saying if you had to guess just for fun.
I don't have to guess, and it's not fun. But if I had to guess, I would say,
isn't it fun to think about that?
No, it's not fun. This is a monumental waste. Okay, well, it's a monumental waste of time. But if I had to guess, I would guess that the universe came about by natural processes, unguided by any intelligence.
Okay.
Well, Bill, can I ask a question? Like, I guess my question is,
yeah,
if you're going to play that game of let's guess, there are how many possibilities are there? I mean, wouldn't you say that there are billions of? I mean, there's an infinite number of possibilities I could make up from gods to aliens, like you said, to anything. So how is that useful to anyone? That okay, I think it's aliens, and Matt thinks it's natural processes, and you think it's God, and my daughter thinks it's a universe creating unicorn. Like, I mean, how does that get us anywhere?
Because I think thinking like that, you find the truth in being curious. And I think you guys are kind of just stuck on no. I think you guys are stuck on no.
Know what?
No God.
That's not
But
what
you
we're
just said it
stuck
could be
on.
alien.
We're not saying there is no God. We're saying we're not convinced there is a God. We may also go further and say that there is no God, but we're not stuck on anything. We are actually open to being convinced of anything if you actually come with an evidence-based argument and don't just come with, gosh, I can't imagine it's not that way.
Oh, okay. I disagree, but
How can you disagree with me
because
saying
I think no matter what people
no.
say to you, Matt, you're
Let me
always going to
finish my
disagree.
question. How can you answer a
Well, can I
question
talk?
before I've even? How can you answer a question before I've even fucking asked it?
Because I'm not answering your question. I'm telling you something. If you would let me speak.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is you're not answering my question. How dare you suggest that we haven't allowed you to speak? We've asked you questions. We've answered your questions. We've given you plenty of time to speak. You have said absolutely nothing of use or substance. You've provided no argument supported by no evidence. You've just asserted that when you look around, you see a world that it seems more reasonable to you that was created by an intelligence. Well, good for you. The rest of us need something more than Bill's incredulity.
I think if someone gave you and called in on the show and gave you evidence, I think you would deny it no matter what.
I think Bill, that's a bullshit excuse, and you're not a serious caller. You're not actually interested in discussing this, and you already
Have you ever
know.
been wrong, Matt?
I've been wrong many times, Bill. Have you
I've
ever
never
been
seen you
honest?
admit to
Have
being
you ever
wrong
been
once in your
honest?
life.
Have you ever been honest? Have you ever been honest? Because you're not being honest
Have you
now.
ever been proven wrong?
Because you're never going to fucking talk over me, Bill. You are never, ever, ever going to be able to talk over me. It's never going to happen. You just accused us of being dishonest. So first of all, fuck you. But second of all, if in fact you wanted to demonstrate that we would deny real evidence, why don't you provide that real evidence and see if we deny it right now? Put up or shut
Do you
up.
talk like this to people
Put
in
up or
real
shut
life,
up.
Matt? Because you act
Put
like
up
a
or
real
put
tough
up or
guy
shut
on the
up.
phone.
Put up or shut up. Put up or shut up.
You wouldn't
Put up or shut up.
You wouldn't talk like this
Put
to
up or
anybody
shut
in
up.
real life.
You don't think so? You come and talk to me in real
Absolutely
life.
not.
I talk to everybody like this. Anytime they're being dishonest like you, Bill, you are dishonest and I call you out. And don't you dare suggest that I wouldn't do it in person. I've literally walked off stages. I've literally called people out live in the middle of debates to leave. See, you're not serious, Bill. You're not real. You're not a theist. You don't believe, you don't have an argument, and you don't care to have an honest discussion. Instead, you are calling in to waste everybody's time, which is why instead of presenting evidence, you're coming at me personally. So here's your last chance. When I unmute you, present your evidence and prove that we will deny it. Go.
That's all I got, Matt. Thanks.
I know it's all you got. Bye.
Matt, the problem is you just refuse to believe the evidence they don't present to you.
I know. I've just see they decided that they're not going to present evidence because they already know I'm just not going to accept it.
That's
So why
true,
bother?
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. It's one of my favorite things to hear someone say, because I feel like I've heard that and seen that, not maybe with you, with me, when people say that over and over. Oh, you're just going to you wouldn't accept it if we presented it to you, and it's like, well, then fucking present it. I don't.
Yeah.
No one. When is that going to happen?
Yeah. It's like,
Please.
imagine this scenario. Ian's here and Ian's like, hey, I want somebody to present evidence of God. And I called in and said, well, I would present the evidence, but even if I did, you would just dismiss it. So I'm not gonna. Well, first of all, let's change that around to Ian wants evidence that vaccines cause autism. and somebody calls in and says, well, I would present the evidence, but you wouldn't believe it. Cool. Does this happen at all in real science, in real inquiry? Does somebody show up and say, you know what? I would present to you the evidence of common ancestry. So I will. The fusing of chromosome 2 at the centromere is clear evidence of common ancestry between humans and other great apes. That's one data point of many. Now, if in fact you're the type of person like a creationist who will just reject that evidence, I don't have to tell people, you're one of those creationists who will reject that evidence. I just need to present the evidence and let you reject it. You've told on yourself. But when it's the opposite way, when it's like, I would present the evidence, but you just reject it anyway, you just told on yourself. We all know. We know you ain't got shit, which is why after we dance around in here, you acknowledge that's all I got. I know. I knew that before I ever picked up the phone. Thanks for proving I'm right.
He also has a girlfriend in Canada that he doesn't have any pictures of, but she's real.
She's smoking.
Yeah,
Chris
she's
is
super
calling
hot.
from Australia. Chris is a theist who says his Mesopotamian God can save us from Trump and his war on truth. Chris, man, if this is a joke, just get to it quick.
I thought I was going to get a response like that. No, I'm very serious about this one. So I appreciate the time. It's a little bit of a clickbait.
You have a God. You have a God that you refer to as a Mesopotamian God.
Yeah, one specifically. Yeah.
Which one?
Name is Shamash.
Shumash. I've seen
Shamash.
Buffy.
Shamash.
Shamash is referenced on Buffy, I remember.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes. Xander's penis got diseases from the Shumash tribe.
Oh, there you go.
So, how do you know this God is? Well, let me ask: is this God real, and does it exist?
Well, I don't know. I can't make the claim that a God exists that I can't demonstrate. So that's the first.
Okay,
That's the first
Chris,
step. Now,
Chris,
yeah.
Chris, can non-existent things save us from Trump and his war on truth?
Yes, because non-existent things like that are not tangible, like things like truth, for example, I think can.
Yes, but you're advocating for a God that you do not have any way of knowing exists. So if your God doesn't exist, can it still save us from Trump?
The principles of the God can definitely save us from Trump.
Are the principles in any way tied to the existence of the God?
I think the success of the philosophical framework is tied to the belief in the God being necessary.
No. So you've now conflated things and backtracked all in one sentence. Is the existence of a God required for its effectiveness, or merely belief in the existence of the God, or merely belief in the effectiveness of the God?
It's a bit of a tricky one to understand. I mean, maybe we'll get there if you give me some time, but I think ultimately it's a pragmatic framework that relies on the belief in it, but doesn't necessarily, because I know you've got a problem, like I've heard a lot of your calls before, and you've got a problem with sort of pragmatic beliefs, especially if they're spreading falsehoods, which I don't think that my framework does.
Does your framework depend on acknowledging the existence of a God that you can't demonstrate?
I think the success of it relies on the God, yes, but not the existence of the God, if that makes sense. Did I make sense there? Not sure.
Okay. I guarantee you this is going to go badly, but what is it that you think your God can do?
So basically, I think that by following this framework, or with what the framework is supposed to do, is if I could sort of encapsulate it in a couple of sentences, it would kind of be like the way that the scientific method functions, but as a religion. So essentially, it's kind of like a religious method that removes kind of dogmatic framework or dogmatic ideas that are central to pretty much all of the major religions. So there is no central authority. There is no dogmatic ideal of you must do this. There are no commands. There are principles. So Shamash was obviously a Mesopotamian god that was worshipped in the way that the Sumerians did. That's irrelevant. What's relevant is what the god represented. So what the god represented was truth, morality, and justice.
So we're stopping, Chris.
Yep.
So the answers to my question before were that the existence of Shamash is irrelevant, and what is relevant are the principles and people accepting and following those principles. So why did you call in to say that your Mesopotamian God can save us from Trump and his war on truth, and then dance around the questions when in reality, the Mesopotamian God is completely irrelevant, and you instead have values that if you think you can get people to accept them, that will save us from Trump and his war on truth?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but I think that you don't really get the mission.
No, Chris, you don't get to say you would agree with that. You called in and said my Mesopotamian God can save us from Trump, but in reality, all you called in to say is if people gave more of a shit about truth, that would save us from Trump and his war on truth.
Yes, I agree with that.
Do you think this is fucking clever? Do you think it's clever to call in and talk about an irrelevant God and then present a tautology that if people cared more about truth, we would care more about truth? You can't be this silly.
No. I think maybe you're misunderstanding what I'm actually saying. Like I'm saying.
Well, yes, it must be my fault. What am I misunderstanding then?
I agree with what you're saying, that, essentially the principles are what I'm advocating for, not necessarily the God. However, I believe that if this was to be adopted or if this was to be accepted by people, that people historically don't really band behind kind of abstract concepts. This is why I think like as much of like humanism as I support the ideals of humanism, I think it lacks a cultural weight, a kind of I guess a human, like a story or something like that I think people crave for. You get calls like this all the time of people who are deconstructing and they feel like there's a void.
Chris, yeah. If you're going to suggest that I've misunderstood something, and then all you're going to do is say that the existence of the God isn't relevant and that it's about getting people to adopt or accept certain principles, what did I misunderstand?
Well, if no one's going to adopt or accept the principles, then the God, that's the function of the God. Like the God has a utility. So I'm saying that you're arguing that one of the ways to get people to value honesty is to be dishonest and suggest that there's a God that wants them to be honest. No, I didn't. I never said that there was a God that wants you to be dishonest. When did I say that?
I didn't say you wanted a God to want you to be dishonest. I said that you're advocating that getting people to adopt a principle of honesty, you are going to use a dishonest tactic to create a narrative of a Mesopotamian God to use as the narrative to inspire honesty.
It's not dishonest because I agree.
Yes,
with,
it is.
I believe.
No, it's dishonest. It's dishonest, and you're now lying to yourself right on live TV while you lie to everybody else. It's fine to promote principles, but it's absolutely ridiculous for you to promote the principle of honesty by suggesting that there's a Mesopotamian God of honesty.
I didn't say there is a Mesopotamian God of honesty.
Correct. And because you think that you can literally go word for word and say you didn't say word for word that, and that changes what you actually presented, makes this a big fucking waste of everybody's time. Because you are focused on how you literally did not use those words. But in fact, as I've pointed out twice, the existence of the God does not matter. It's the principles that matter. And your complaint is that throughout history, people have not adopted these abstract concepts without a story to go with it. So you are, as an effective matter, going to use a God, whether it exists or not, to create a narrative story to hope that more people grasp and adhere to a principle of honesty. Correct?
I guess you're correct, but I
You guess
see it.
I'm correct. So I did fucking understand it, and it is dishonest. Goodbye.
So I know that's all completely irrelevant, everything he's saying, but here's the thing I don't get. If he was even remotely serious, which I don't think he was. So he's suggesting that we get everybody to adopt a new religion that has the principles of honesty and integrity and whatever. Meanwhile, don't 90% of politicians in America adhere to Christianity? And I know there's a lot of problems with Christianity, but don't they also say that Christianity stands for all of these great things, such as empathy and feeding the poor and all that? So they already have a religion and a God that says these things, and they don't follow them. How would getting them to believe a new God that has the same ideals change their? I guess I'm missing what. Maybe I missed something.
It's hard enough to get people to follow a new God anyway. I'm amazed that Mormonism, as especially stupid as it is, it's such an obvious invented fiction. That Mormonism and Scientology are the two dumbest and the two most recent major world religions. I think it's telling that we now have the dumbest administration with all of the dumbest, appointees to various positions. There are a couple of exceptions, but if they're not dumb, they're dishonest. I'm looking at you, Marco, little Marco, who's definitely qualified for his position, but has sacrificed all of his integrity. Everything he ever said in opposition to Trump, he threw out the window so he could be Secretary of State. Wipe your chin there, Marco. While you're down there, little Marco, wipe your chin. Get that poop off your nose. But
yeah, I mean,
it's the notion of, hey, we need people to care more about honesty. Oh, well, they should just care more about honesty. Yeah, but they don't. Well, but they should, and I want them to. Okay, how can we get them to care about honesty? Okay, let's put a story around it, because that's cool. And there's a Mesopotamian god that he's about honesty and integrity, and I think we could use that. And if we got people to care about that. Oh, so you're wanting people who are either of no religion or who are of a different religion to convert to your brand new, invented today on the hang up religion about a Mesopotamian god. And one of the core tenets is, doesn't matter whether or not that God is real. We're focused on that God's values. This is why the world's falling apart, because we come up with incredibly stupid ideas and think we're brilliant. It's literally a tautology. If we could get people to care about honesty, that's how you counter Trump's dishonesty, is by getting people to care about honesty again. Well, congratulations.
Hey,
woohoo.
That's quite brilliant. So you're saying,
you know what we got to do? I got a solution.
Honest?
I got a solution. I can solve every sexual assault problem in the world. All we got to do is get people to start caring about consent.
Hey, that's a really good idea.
I mean, can we find a God somewhere out there who's primary, like maybe an advocate for like Jainism or something, where you're extreme pacifism? You would think that a religion like that would value consent. Maybe we could just get everybody to convert to the one that values consent the most, and now there's no more sexual assault.
That's a really good idea. And how do we, and it should be really easy to get everybody, especially in America, to convert from their Christian beliefs. It should be really easy to, especially if we make something that's, possibly an Eastern religion or something from that doesn't have a whitewashed history to it. That would be really easy.
Well, we've got some opportunities here to maybe get some more evidence for God. I'm not incredibly optimistic, but I'm hopeful. So Martin's calling from Utah, and Martin's a theist. Pronouns are him. Oh, and if Martin's a theist from Utah, Martin might also be a Mormon and might be very upset that I just said that Mormonism was one of the two stupidest religions. So, Martin, I'm not sorry I said that, but if you're bothered by it, you can feel free to rail at me.
Howdy.
Hi, Martin. Hello? Martin, if you're on your phone, you might have to tap your phone to wake it up because you're using the web client.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? This is Arden.
I hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, my mic cut out. Sorry. No, this caller, that was a voice line. He just plays voice notes. I screened this past weekend and I talked to this person. This person's not real.
Yeah, it sounded like a voice thing right off the bat. But it's disappointing too, because their note was like, Heavenly Father once was a man and we too can become gods like him. And so it's very clear that they're calling in to talk about Mormonism. And generally, I don't think that a lot of the people who would call in to defend Mormonism are real and truly Mormons. So,
well, maybe Martin is looking for the golden tablets so that he can send those in.
Could be.
He could be just digging them up somewhere right now, trying to find them. And that's what the delay was.
I have no idea, but we've got more theists. So Caleb's calling in from Ohio. Caleb's a theist, pronouns are him. Says, over the last 100 years, science has pointed towards intelligent design. Hey, Caleb, how are you? You're on with Ian and Matt.
Sorry. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm calling in about. So I think that over the past 100 years, based on things like the origin of the universe and the complexity of life, has helped point us towards intelligent design as the best explanation for the way that things are.
Yeah, I completely disagree. So we're off to the races, in part because the complexity of design is not a hallmark of good design. And I don't know how you tell the difference between a universe or life that was intelligently designed versus wasn't.
Okay, yeah. What was it? Did you say that last part about design? What was the first thing that you just now said?
I said that complexity is not the hallmark of design, and that I don't see how a universe or life coming into existence, I don't know how to tell the difference between one that was designed intelligently or not designed intelligently.
Okay. So have you guys ever heard of Dr. Hugh Ross or like Dr. James Tour? Because I'm going to be mentioning stuff from them. Like these are some of the things that they have said that I happen to think is good evidence.
Yeah, but I don't need you to reference any of them. I mean, Hugh Ross is a fraud. But
how so?
Okay, I don't need to. What is the evidence? Because the people that you're trying to cite aren't relevant It's the evidence that's relevant.
Okay, I guess I was just trying to let you know that especially Dr. James Tour is a respected scientist, chemist.
What? Dr. James Tour?
Did you get that?
Tour? Cool. I don't care if somebody is a respected scientist. I fully recognize there are scientists, including respected scientists, who are proponents of intelligent design. I've debated many of them. Whether or not there are scientists that agree with your position is not in question and was never in question. The issue is, what is the evidence? And how do you show that this particular evidence points to an intelligent designer as opposed to not? It doesn't matter whether you heard it from Hugh Ross or Dr. Tour or the peanut butter fairy. I just need to know what's the evidence and how do you tell that it points to intelligent design? Because you picked two cartoonish young earth creationists who represent extreme outliers, even from scientists who might not accept evolution or who might advocate for intelligent design. So what's the evidence?
They are not young earth creationists. Neither of them. I'm just saying, by the way, if you're going to critique them, you should critique them the right way.
I'm sorry. Hugh Ross is an old earth creationist. My apologies. I don't know what Tour's thing is.
Okay. So anyway, there's these space-time theorems, and any universe that expands on average has a space-time beginning, implying a causal agent beyond time who creates our universe of space-time, matter, and energy. And also, I think mainly one of the most compelling things for me is the origin of life. I think that it is, and we actually called in about this before. You guys just actually posted a short about it. I was talking about the origin of life and how I think it's extremely unlikely that life could have arisen by a natural process.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care whether or not you think it's unlikely that life could have arisen by a natural process. Who the hell are you? I only care about what the evidence suggests, not what your opinion of it is.
Okay, so based on our studies in the lab, even using all of our intelligence, we cannot generate life, and it has been calculated before.
Caleb, stop. I've asked you 3 or 4 times now for the evidence of what the specific evidence is and how you can know that it points towards intelligent design. And you have repeatedly failed to begin by presenting the evidence, and you are now presenting a case of, given all we know, we have failed to create X. That is a completely fallacious line of reasoning. Oh, Caleb hung up and ran away. Okay. When you say we have failed to produce life or whatever ridiculous thing, you are now in cartoon mode. When you are referencing Hugh Ross, who's an old Earth creationist. I went to a debate where he debated Michael Shermer here at the University of Texas, probably 12, 13, 14 years ago. But oh my God, you motherfuckers. I had all my teeth pulled out. I've got dentures. I don't have the top one in. That's why I'm slurring. We've talked about this 100 times. I appreciate the concern. Yes, I'm speaking a little funny today. Get over it. I'm still owning motherfuckers with zero effort. So anyway.
What do they say? Is Matt drunk?
Did Matt have dental work done today? He's slurring his words today. Yes. Yes. Here's my teeth. Shut up. So I'm not worried about it. It's just that it's easily distracted in chat. When you say something like, despite all we know, we've been unable to do this. I need to do a whole video about that subject, because the thought process behind that is, we don't have a good enough understanding of X unless we can replicate X in a laboratory. Well, that's already flawed. That is not how we necessarily know a good deal of things within science. Science is inference. Science is inductive reasoning. Science is, hey, we see regularity there and we can presume some regularity for the purpose of determining what's likely to happen to make and build predictive models. That's what science does. And science is so good at making predictive models that it's able to make a model of an animal that is an inference, essentially something like Tiktaalik. Our understanding of the ancient past, of biology, of geology, of the history of the earth is, while it's grossly incomplete, is still sufficiently good enough that we were able to identify exactly where on earth and at what layer of rock we would need to excavate to have a shot at finding a particular transitional species. That is a prediction that the evolutionary model makes. We then went out and investigated rocks of exactly that layer in exactly that location, and we found exactly what the model predicted, which became known as Tiktaalik. Tiktaalik, this crocodile fish thing. But the important thing is, we don't find, to paraphrase Stephen Jay Gould, rabbits in the Precambrian. We don't find fossils out of place. They seem to be segregated consistently, globally, into aspects of a geologic column. When you say that we haven't been able to replicate something in the lab, therefore we don't know it, that's as ridiculous as the people who are saying that if we can't see it with our eyes, we can't know it. In the same way that we use telescopes to see things that we can't see with the naked eye, we use electron microscopes to see things that we cannot see visually in the visible spectrum. And then we use tons of other tools that we built on millennia of scientists investigating the world. And for you to say, well, we haven't replicated life, and I just don't think it's possible. I really think, I gave it till 2025. I gave it until 2025, and I expected that humanity by this time would certainly be able to do something as simple as creating life or starting another universe. I remember when I was reading my comic books and Franklin Richards, when he was just a little baby, created an entire universe while he was in bed underneath the covers. Surely we can do that now. I mean, that was written in the 60s or 70s. Sorry. I got Fantastic Four on the brain. We need to remind people that we're open for callers. We'll get back to callers here in just a minute. But theist callers in particular, and especially honest theistic callers, not someone who's just going to suggest, well, God's real, just look around. Well, that's the best I got. Well, we haven't produced life in a lab, therefore it must have been God. If that's the best you've got, don't bother. But anyway, you were getting ready to say something.
No, I just never understood. Like, I'm just listening to you, explain this stuff so succinctly, and just listening to what that person said. I've never understood the theists who they demand all of this evidence. I mean, I guess that's our fault for being, evidence based or whatever. They demand 100% evidence, every gap they can possibly think of, but they demand zero evidence on their side. This is his argument about, oh, you haven't produced life. Well, you haven't produced anything resembling a god. Like, I have to recreate life in a lab, or all the rest of the evidence and all the rest of the fossil record and everything that we know is bullshit if I can't produce it in a lab. But you don't have to produce a single thing that points to your God. You haven't produced a God in a lab either. Like, it's bizarre their level of they understand that we need evidence, and they want 100%, on an evidentiary claim. But on theirs, they're like, well, it's okay because mine doesn't require any evidence. It's such a bizarre mindset that I've never been able to understand, and I don't know how you deal with it all the time.
It is worse than you thought, and it's worse than any of us thought. So here you go, producer, prepare yourself. I shouldn't do that, but when they call in and say, "Hey, we haven't produced life in a laboratory, therefore we can't do it. Therefore it must be God," they're not just saying, "I don't have evidence for God." They're also saying, "I don't even have evidence against your naturalistic explanation. I just don't think it can happen. I just don't think the odds are in favor of that happening. I don't know what the odds are for a God. I don't even know how you could calculate the odds for a God, but I just think that God is more likely than any naturalistic explanation, despite the fact that we live in a world where every explanation we've ever discovered has been naturalistic. And every time someone proposed a supernatural explanation and we've verified what the real explanation was, it's never, ever been supernatural. And they live in a world where they think there is a God that has specific wants and desires from them, who cares about them, who loves them, who's here to guide them, and that God still will not present evidence for its existence and expects them to go out and try to convince people based on, "I really just don't think it's likely that life could have happened without a God." How embarrassing. Is your God punking you?
Seriously. But look at the trees, Matt. The trees.
If that's not a clip, I'm purple. I tell you what, we've got, we need to get some more callers in today, but we've also got Rob calling from Spain. Rob's pronouns are he, him. Something about the anatomy of God as stated in the Bible. Okay, Rob, tell us what it is you're trying to get on about.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Ian. Thanks for taking my call. Yes, I'm an atheist. I'm not a theist. But I've been reading a wonderful. You might actually know her, Matt, because I know you do the rounds on TV and stuff. Francesca Stavrakopoulou has written a book called God and Anatomy, and it's.
I'm not familiar.
Okay. She's a theologian. She's an atheist. And she's written extensively about how the Hebrew Bible and earlier scriptures found in sort of Jordan and places, and it kind of goes against everything that Christians believe. And God, Yahweh, was a part of a family with El in the Levant period. And sorry, I'm a little nervous speaking to you, man. El was the supreme God, and Yahweh was one of his sort of sons, and one of the shadow gods. And it's even mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Apparently, now I'm not a Bible expert at all, but it talks about. In Deuteronomy, I think, when Elion Most High apportioned the nations, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the people according to the number of the divine sons. For Yahweh's portion was his people, Jacob, or Israel, his allotted share. And I just find it really fascinating, and I don't hear it talked about. I watch The Line a lot, but I don't hear people talking about how even in the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh, or what we know as God, was a physical being. He had a man-like features, hung like a donkey, and was originally part of a sort of polytheistic stuff. And I'm just desperate to know your opinion, really. Sorry, Ian, as well. I don't know your background in theology, but yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. So I haven't read the book. I'm not familiar with her work. I find books like this to be, no offense. I'm sure she's amazing. And I bet it's scholarly goodness, but I don't give a fuck, and neither does any Christian. You can talk about ancient history views that might have served as precursors to what's in the Bible, and that there are remnants of these things still in there. But you cannot make a case that conclusively demonstrates to Jews and Christians that their God is fictional and came out of, precursor stories, if in fact they're convinced that their God is real and interacts with them. It's just telling them, oh, yeah, bummer, sucks to be you buying into this story. It's that sort of thing I don't see that it's particularly compelling to believers. Like when I was a Christian, you could tell me all the connections you had about pre-biblical Hebrew concepts of El and Yahweh. You could explain all of that to me, and it wouldn't change the fact that the God I thought I knew and experienced was real, which means either those stories aren't true, or those stories are side attempts by people to explain the same God that the Jews were explaining, or we don't necessarily have all the details or whatever. To me, it's like, since it's not a knockdown conclusive, this proves that Yahweh was an invented fiction. Like, I think we can show that Scientology and Mormonism are invented fictions, and it doesn't change the mind of any believer, or at least that's probably not true. There's probably several believers whose minds have been changed over that, but this is known, and yet Scientology and Mormonism still exist. And so I don't know that something like this, telling an alternate story or a background story of El or Yahweh, I don't know what the practical value is.
Sure. No, well, thanks for your opinion. That was pretty much it. I've just been reading this book, and for me, I've been a lifelong atheist, so I find it difficult to engage when I do get into discussions. I usually just try to leave people alone, but if people try to preach to me, I kind of enjoy getting into arguments, and I enjoy listening and watching your shows. All of you on the line, I think are great. But you in particular, Matt, I wanted to speak to about this because it was just I found it really interesting. But yeah, thanks for your opinion. That was pretty much it.
Okay, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Hopefully that's
Thanks for
helpful.
your time, guys.
I think some of it gets thrown into the bucket with the mythicists, and since I'm not a mythicist, it might be better to call back when Godless Engineer is on. He might be more familiar with Francesca's work, and it may have more significance in the mythicist community. It also may not. It may not have any. Talking about the pre-Jewish history, or the pre-biblical history of El or Yahweh or Lilith, or any of these things, it's cool, but I live in a world where real people sincerely believe that these beings want them to do certain things, vote certain ways, and treat people certain ways. And so I only care about, can you show that it's true, or can you potentially show that it's false? If they've got a falsifiable belief, can we do it? Can we show that's the case? And quite frankly, I don't know. Maybe I'm the curmudgeonly too much in debate mode. Maybe it would be really good for me to sit down with Francesca and talk about her book and what we should understand from it and what value there is. But I just look at it and I'm like, this is not going to convince anybody that needs to be convinced of something, of anything in the ballpark of that.
It's for me. It's funny because I've always been fascinated with from like a scholarly aspect. I've been fascinated with what people believe and why,
Yeah.
and studying that stuff in ethnology and all these sort of things, and cultural anthropology and all the different things that all the books I would read when I was young. And I love reading different stories. I don't know which ones are necessarily, true. Obviously, historians disagree on everything from the, historical Jesus or not, or, and which stories came from which stories. But I love having a wealth of at least claims of stories where when I am talking to a theist or, a Christian, and I like throwing it out. Well, so-and-so, there's an idea that the origin of that story came from this. And sometimes it is fun to see people go, oh, you mean that story was borrowed, or that story was passed down, or there's another version of that? Well, in this earlier version of your Bible, it says this. And I find it fun to have those conversations, but I think ultimately you're right. It doesn't really add anything to, doesn't change anybody's ideas or beliefs. But for me, it is fun to have those conversations. So I might go take a look at Francesca's work, but yeah, I am not a scholar on that.
It's really, yeah, it's intriguing. Kind of, I'd love to find out that I was wrong, that there's something of value there, that we can strongly show that this story is there, and that makes for a good argument against, X, Y, or Z. And so I'm open to being wrong about it. And since I don't know her or her work or that issue, it just smacks a little bit of the kind of mythicist line, and I think it's what inspires some people to go off a bit further than perhaps is justified. But what the hell do I know? We got some theist callers. Gary's calling from Pennsylvania. Pronouns are he, him. What's the end goal of the atheist model? And is there a possibility the atheist model could eventually discover that there's a God? Hey, Gary, how you doing? You're on with Matt and Ian.
Hey.
So atheism is just the position of not being convinced that a God exists. It's not a model, and it doesn't have any goals. My goals come from being a skeptic and a secular humanist, and the skepticism means that I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And the humanism means that I value human beings and their autonomy and rights and stuff like that. So that's what directs it. If you're saying, am I open to the possibility that there's a God? Yes. If in fact there's a God, I'd love to have the sufficient reason to believe it, because I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And if it's true that there's a God, that's one of the true things I'd like to believe.
Well said.
Is it true that there's a God?
Yes, to me, my belief, my faith.
Well, are there things that are only true for you, or is this something that's true for everybody?
True for the individual, because from what I understand, there requires faith and personal belief.
Okay, I'm confused because you've just defined truth as subjective at the level of the individual. So if I'm convinced that a God exists and my God killed your God, does that make it true?
In your belief, yes.
Okay. Gary, we have a problem in that we don't even agree on what truth means.
Well, how do you define truth?
Truth is that which is correct and consistent with the facts of reality. I don't have if I believe I have $1 billion, does that make it true?
No.
Then if I believe that I have a God that killed your God, why should that make it true?
Because it works outside of reality. Once you bring the word God into play, or even a physical image, one is working in a belief system. And that belief system requires faith.
Gary, do you have any access to anything outside of reality?
Access, yes. As a believer, I do. I can pray.
No. How do you tell the difference between a believer who's praying and is actually speaking to a God outside of reality and someone who believes that they're speaking to a God outside of reality but is wrong?
I love that question, and from my understanding, God sets up the construct where someone has to have a belief system or faith.
Yeah,
So if we bring
that not
reality
only doesn't answer my question, but it raises another question, which is you're saying from your understanding, here's what God did. Why do you have that understanding? And is it possible you have that understanding even if it's not true?
Yes, it is possible I can have
Okay.
an incorrect understanding.
Then if we have two people who are praying and one of them is correctly praying to God
Mhm.
and the other one thinks they are, but they're wrong, how can we tell the difference?
Mhm. Actually, it's not up to us based on the Christian model. We're not supposed to determine that.
See,
There's wheat
once
and
again,
tares.
Gary, I didn't ask you anything about a Christian model, and you don't get to appeal to a Christian model. You don't. You might as well be saying, "Well, based on my model or Jim Bob's model, nobody gives a shit."
Mhm.
We need a model that we all agree on because truth should be true for all of us. If you have the subjective notion of truth, then you have thrown out the very foundation that makes something true. Because right now, once you make truth subjective and at the whim and will of the individual, you now have competing truths. Can it be the case that your God both exists and does not exist?
No.
Okay.
And I like what
If
you
it's
stated about
hang
competing
on,
truth.
Gary, hang on. We're really close. If it's possible, if it is not possible for your God to both exist and not exist, and you believe that your God exists, and I believe that your God does not exist, one of us must be wrong, right?
That's right. You mentioned competing truths.
No, I mentioned competing claims. And I want to know if there are competing claims about the truth of a proposition, how do we determine which one is correct?
We don't. God
Cool.
does.
Then
The
I have
Bible
no
does.
use for talking to you, Gary, because you're saying that you're willing to believe something that you do not and cannot know to be true. And I cannot do that.
I understand that.
Well, the whole purpose of the show is to get people to call in to defend the God beliefs. And you're calling in to say, well, actually, you called in to ask about atheism. We already addressed that. But when asked,
Right.
you're saying you cannot defend a God belief. Oh, correct?
Right. To an unbeliever, or I cannot convince
Okay.
or defend.
Okay. Then I guess we're done, Gary.
Thanks.
I don't even. Sorry, I didn't even know what to chime in there. That was how do you
Well,
how do we know if it's outside of reality, or if the only person that can evaluate the claim of truth is God, and there's no way to know what that God thinks because you're appealing to something outside of reality. I don't understand how does that how is that useful, or how does that affect anyone in reality? I don't understand what he's even saying. Like what is
neither does he. This is the problem. When you say, I believe X is true, and I believe not X is true, because I believe in subjective personal truths. Okay. I believe it's not possible for my God to both exist and not exist. And yet I believe that if I think God exists, then it's true for me. And if you think God doesn't exist, that's true for you. There's no resolution to that other than saying, when I say that it's true for me, I don't mean it is true that God in fact exists. I mean, it's true that I think God exists, which is just another way of hiding the fact that you're calling in to say, I think God exists. Do you have a good reason? No, I do not.
Feels good. I like it.
I got here. I'm gonna let you start in with this one, because this is Derek from Ohio, who has no preferred pronouns, and I need to know what she thinks about your thoughts. So, Derek, you're live with Ian.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, if the rapture happens in our lifetime, will you believe that it happened?
If there's sufficient evidence for the rapture, that a rapture happened, I'll believe it. I'll believe anything with enough evidence. Ian?
What can you define what the rapture is? I'm not religious, and I've never been religious. I kind of vaguely know what the rapture is, but what in your opinion, what is the rapture?
Well, from how I understand it, it's when Jesus comes back and takes up all of his chosen people back up to heaven, and then we're left down here to deal with the mess.
And would we be able to see the people?
So you're not one of the chosen?
Well, no, he asked me what I thought the rapture was, and that's what I was explaining what I thought the rapture was.
Yeah, but you said we would be left down to clean up the mess, which implies you don't think you're going to be raptured.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if I will or if I won't. I mean, that's really not up to me, so I don't really think about it much.
Raptures? How do you work toward being raptured?
I'm sorry?
How would I work toward being raptured?
Accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior into your heart.
How you know that?
Because the Bible tells me so.
Why are you laughing?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because that's a Christian kids song that I used to sing in Bible study.
Yeah,
I know.
I
I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. 'Cause the Bible tells me so.
I've done entire
yeah.
I've done entire videos on the subject.
Yeah, but
yeah, rhymes.
Yeah, I was just curious because, like, if a million people just suddenly disappear, like, is that not gonna ring a bell in your brain? Yeah. Like, oh wait, I've like seen this before, because it gets talked about a lot. So if it happens in our lifetime, that would be a reasonable thought to think, oh my gosh, is this the rapture? Because millions of people just vanished and nobody has an explanation. There's only so many choices that could be. It could be the government, it could be aliens, or it could be God.
How do you tell which one it is?
Those are the reasons. Or it could be a terrorist attack.
How do you tell which one it is?
Well, process of elimination.
Okay. How do you eliminate them?
By studying each one, and I guess you would have to start by using logic and evidence, but start by just logic and just go by 1 through 1, and so then eventually you would get to the rapture, and you would know that people have talked about the rapture millions and millions of years, or however long the earth has been here, and if million people just disappeared, just like the Bible said that would happen. So, I mean, if you put 2 and 2 together, and plus it wouldn't be a nuclear or a terrorist threat, because then there ain't no, like, nuclear smoke in the air, but that's all testicle stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
Okay, I just have a question, though. So, this is fun to me. Okay, so to my knowledge, again, not a religious person, I always thought that the bodies, because when I see people die, their bodies don't disintegrate. They don't, eventually they do, but they don't just disappear. It's the soul, or it's something else, the spirit that goes, right? So you're saying that for me, if millions of people physically just vanished from the planet, like in front of my eyes, they just disappeared or whatever, first off, I wouldn't assume anything. There'd have to be a lot of research done to figure out what happened there. But that sounds more like aliens. I'm just going to be honest with you. Somebody's being beamed up somewhere. I don't know. How do you determine now? Look, if we determined that in fact somehow we could determine that was the case, why would, whatever the case would, we've a million people disappear, and now we do the research, we figure out what happened to these million people, and we come across the answer. Yes, I would believe the answer if we came across the answer, and if that answer was the rapture, then I guess I would have to believe it. I don't understand how you would ever know that was, how you would be able to determine that was the rapture. Like you said, there could be a million other possibilities. Anyway, it's sure if we proved the rapture happened, then and we could prove it scientifically the way we prove other things, then I would of course accept that scientific conclusion.
Okay, yeah. One of the ways we can think is logic thinking, and we can just know that the Bible says that two men will be standing in the field, and one will be taken, and one will be left behind. The Bible clearly says that. So, I mean, if that happens, then just as a metaphor, for millions more people, yeah.
If the Bible says two men will be standing next to each other and one of them will disappear, and that happens, does that mean the Bible was correct?
If it happens to millions of people, I mean, yeah.
Why did you say if it happens to millions of people? Why wouldn't it be true if it was just two?
Because it's a metaphor for millions.
I'm sorry. It's you have no way of showing that it's a metaphor, and you have no way of showing that it couldn't merely be literal. Like maybe there are two people and one of them disappears literally.
Okay,
right?
well, when I read it, it sounds like a metaphor to me.
Okay, well, whether it sounds like a metaphor or not, if there's two people standing there someday and one of them disappears, does that mean the rapture has occurred? And your answer is no, not unless it happens to millions.
Right, because I believe it's a metaphor for millions.
Why?
It's giving
I don't care what you
example.
believe. Please. I care whether or not what you believe is justified. So if you think it's a metaphor for millions of people, and it happens to millions of people, you're saying that if millions of people disappear, that will convince you that the Bible correctly predicted the rapture, right?
Right, that wouldn't convince you guys is the question.
No, it would not on its own convince me. I would be happy to believe that the event occurred, but we're still a long ways, and this is what Ian was pointing out, we're a long ways from knowing why the event occurred. How did you rule out alien abduction?
Can I ask you, what if we know,
I'm
what
sorry,
if we know what
how
happened
did you
next?
rule out, I'm asking you, how did you rule out alien abduction?
By process of elimination.
No, that's not an answer. When I say,
No, that's how I ruled it out.
When I say, how did you rule something out? You can't just say you ruled it out.
How did you eliminate it?
Oh, okay. Because there is no evidence for aliens.
What evidence is there for God or a soul or an afterlife?
The Bible. If the rapture happens, the Bible would be correct.
I have a lot of books about alien abduction.
There's plenty of people that claimed alien abductions.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's evidence.
Why wouldn't you just take the disappearance of millions of people as evidence that the people who talked about alien abductions were telling the truth?
Not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not
but you're
sure
the
what
one
you said.
calling it. But you're the one who called in to say that you think there's a possibility the rapture could happen, and then instead of defending that the rapture is possible, you instead suggested that if something happened like this, it would be good evidence that the Bible predicted the rapture, and yet you haven't
Right.
not only you've not only not given us a reason to show that if it happened, that would in any way confirm that the Bible predicted an event, and you haven't shown us that it can happen or has happened. So this speculation that you're involved with, why would you say if millions of people disappeared, that would be sufficient evidence that God exists? Why wouldn't you instead say, if God showed up and talked to all of us right now, that would be sufficient evidence that God exists?
That would be significant evidence if God spoke up and spoke to us all right now.
Yeah. Why didn't you pick that one?
Your previous, I was going to say
answer
to answer your
question.
previous.
I want you to answer this
your
question.
previous question.
I want you to answer this question.
Okay, what was the question again?
The question is, if it's the case that you're willing to say 1 million people disappearing would be proof of God, and that is your argument, why didn't you make the argument, if God showed up and talked to us, that would be sufficient evidence? Why didn't you make that argument, and instead you made a weaker argument? Because I think you'd have to admit that millions of people disappearing has a number of different potential explanations, but God showing up and speaking to us doesn't. So why didn't you go for the stronger example? Is it because you know that one won't ever happen?
No, I think if a rapture happens, we can tell what's going to happen next. Like right after rapture, it would be the mark of the beast. That would be the next thing to come. You call me
back after the rapture then, because until then you've got nothing.
Okay, well, I think I do.
Well,
just you're wrong.
You can think you can all you want, but you've mentioned rational thought and logical thought, and you haven't demonstrated that you understand what either of them are. You haven't demonstrated any mechanism by which you can tell anything about anything, and yet you want to pretend like you're the reasonable one. So please keep pretending you're reasonable, and when the rapture occurs, come back and let us know that you were right, even though you had no way to demonstrate it.
All right, well, I'm not saying I was right. I was saying there's a possibility that the rapture could happen, and I was asking you guys if you would believe it or not that it would happen.
Already,
you start with my answers about
I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you. You already start with the weakest possible argument, a coincidence of millions of people missing, which hasn't happened, instead of the stronger argument. But now you're even backing off all of that. And now you're just saying, oh, I'm not saying it's actually, I'm just saying it's possible. Well, I'm not convinced it's possible. So here's the question, Derek. How do you determine that a rapture is in fact possible?
By if millions of people disappear.
Derek, have millions of people disappeared?
No, but if it did happen
don't get it. No, stop, Derek. Stop, Derek. You don't get to add a but. You just got completely fucking busted. You just got train wreck bum rushed by rational logical thought, because you made a claim and then I exposed what the problem was with the claim. And now you're trying to fix it.
How am I trying to fix it?
With your big butt.
With my what?
Nothing. Your butt. Everyone's got a big butt.
I don't understand how we're trying to fix it.
Yeah, go back and listen to.
I was trying to give you an answer.
Go back and listen to your panicked attempt to add a but once your hypocrisy and fallacy had been exposed. So, thanks, Derek.
That is honestly the most ridiculous. Well, probably not for you. You fielded quite a few ridiculous, but that it's hard to believe that some of these people are even serious.
Yeah, it's I don't know. All right, final call for today. We're gonna, after this, we're gonna go to super chats. We're gonna read every super chat over $10, so you can get them in now. If you got questions for me or for Ian, get those super chats in, because we're moving on to the final call of the day. Taylor in New York, pronouns are he, him. Taylor says the best evidence of the Lord is modern verified miracles verified by the Catholic Church. Taylor, how are you?
Hey, Taylor.
I'm gay.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
I don't know what that has to do with modern verified miracles, but thanks for deciding to ruin the final show call of the day by telling us something we didn't care about and already guessed. I mean, it's wild to me that it's on hold to do. I'm gay. Congratulations. I mean, I get it. We currently live in a time where the government is not in kind alignment with the broader queer community. And I know that because we have the Translating Call-In show on this network and because Arden's my partner, I know that we end up spending a great deal of time focusing on trans rights issues. And that means we don't spend as much time focusing on gay rights issues. And so for that caller, I want to apologize because we worked very hard for marriage equality. We worked very hard to allow for gay pride parades and festivals, to encourage people to wear assless chaps, and to go out and be proud about who they are. And then no sooner did we get that solved that we all got a little complacent and we allowed them to tear apart our siblings in the queer community just because we were afraid they'd take away what they already gave us. And so I hear you. I hear you, my fellow queer friend, desperately flailing out into a voice box to echo on repeat that you're gay and you should do that. You should call back in and do it again. You should call into every show. You should call your senators. You should call your representatives. You should preach it from the bulwarks and all the way to the mountains, from sea to shining sea, that you are gay, and never let anybody make you feel bad about that. Just enjoy your life. And every time they try to take your rights away, why, you just reach out and you grab those rights and you grab hold of those rights and you wring every single drop of justice and freedom out of those rights and bathe in it. And that's what fuels the liberal tears that they want to drink anyway. So you might as well do it. Anyway, thanks for calling in to let us know that you were gay.
Yeah, that was informative. Most informative call I've seen. Heard.
Oh my. We've got some super chat. Only a tiny bit right now because nobody is. There we go. There's
man. I looked for an animated one, but I didn't have enough time. I thought of it too late in the bit. I was gonna have the gay flying flag
well, to be fair, I didn't know it was a bit when I started. I didn't know where it was going. All right. So we don't have a ton of super chats, but if you get your super chat in while we're reading them, we will knock this out. And if not, I love doing 3-hour shows. I love doing 6-hour shows. I love doing 1.5 hour shows. I love doing 2-hour shows. I want to do the shows that you guys want. There's a lot going on, and we are all of us, overwhelmed. I had a board meeting with an organization the other night, and all I could think to do was to say, we cannot sit idly by. We cannot get complacent. We cannot get tired, because every story is another end of the world thing, or it's absolute lunacy. And you can have two stories that Ian and I could both have sat here 10 years ago and looked at both stories, and you just said, which one of these is from the Onion? And we just said, they're both from the Onion, you dipshit. And then we look at them today, and one of them is a real thing being done by the administration, and the other one is a decoy designed to get you to complain about it so that you look like you have Trump derangement syndrome or Elon derangement syndrome, that you're just tilting at windmills and flailing around, and oh my gosh, that's just everything's the worst. And while they're doing that, some of the stuff that we're complaining about that is in fact legitimate, it doesn't matter how many people are paying attention or complain. It's just going to happen. And it's time that people woke up and realized we have lost the government. All branches of government. We have the least qualified president and co-president, platforming and getting people put into cabinet positions and other positions who are not qualified, who are not wise, who are absolutely ideologues advocating for Project 2025 and or something similar. There's a couple of conventions coming up. There's Free Flow in Florida. There's the American Atheist Convention. You can go to atheistsplural.org to find out more information about those things. There's language that I started using in the last year or so, and it's important because there's a very good likelihood that a civil war of some kind is coming. It's not going to look like the last civil war because the world doesn't look like the last world where we had a civil war, but something like that is coming. This could be, not even exaggerating, this could be the last year that it is safe for secularists to get together in a convention. And it may not be safe now. You could end up on some Christo-fascist watch list. Do you know how fucking weird it feels to me to be talking about Christian nationalism and Christo-fascist watch lists and the end of Roe and how they're targeting this and all that, and it's civil war. Do you know how I feel crazy saying those things? And yet, it's like I've waited as long as I can to call a spade a spade. And we have the dumb fuckery coup running the country. And so before it's illegal or dangerous for us to get together and celebrate secularism or advocate towards political change, we're going to do it. We're going to get together. We're going to share that contact information. We're going to make backup copies of things. We're going to make paper copies of things. Hell, you can make VHS copies of things if you are worried about stuff potentially getting hidden, because the administration is already spinning a new truth, starting with things like, hey, let's just take over Greenland or Panama or everywhere. The Gulf of America, old America, new America, left America. This America that's between there. Oh, the Atlantic Ocean? Why, that's just the American Ocean 1. And then there's American Ocean 2 and American Ocean 3. We're in a race to take over absolutely everything and to do it all for God because he's too feckless to do it himself. Super chat time. Go ahead, Ian.
All right. Well, $10 from Jared Bear Fuller. Seems Trump wants to rename things. Can we refer to Air Force One as Con Air? Anyway, great show. Thanks for another awesome.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong button. Oh my God, what have I done? Oh my God, it's so obnoxious. I'm so embarrassed. I was trying to get the gay flag thing still working. I'm so sorry, chat. I'm trying to be a good ally for you.
I thought she was punking me with some kind of the show shut down before the Supers.
I was like, did Elon just hit the button on us?
But also, when I was saying go ahead, I thought you wanted to say something or add something on to the last thing.
I thought you wanted me to read. No,
it's fine.
I do want to say, by the way, because I'm curious. I mean, this is a whole other conversation. But anyone who wants to message me personally and talk about this, I've been really trying to figure out. Like you said, they're idiots. I don't know how. I feel like there's so many more of us that could outsmart them, and I don't know if it's complacency, if it's fear that I feel sometimes we on this side don't want to look like conspiracy nuts or don't want to look like we're a crying wolf, and we go, yeah, well, let's just see. I don't know, or is it that we're afraid that the crazies with the guns are going to come? I don't know, but I'm like, I feel like we're watching this unfold, and we should be able to outsmart and outwit and figure out how to stop all this. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do. And it's. I feel like I should know what to do. And I'm like, I don't think marches necessarily work. I think maybe if there was huge ones and they were every day, but I think voting used to work, and I don't know that we're going to have another real election ever again. And I'm like, do we take up arms? Is it like, I don't know what the deal is, but there's got to be a way out of this, and I just don't know what the hell it is. And I would love for a bunch of people out there that are smarter than me to band together, and I'll do whatever we need to do. But I don't know. It's just it's frustrating, Matt, and I wish there was an answer to it. I hoping that somebody out there has some answers that I don't have.
I have something. I have an announcement that I can't make. But as it stands right now, sometime in the next month, I'm going to have a political commentator friend of mine on the line to talk about all aspects of this, about covering this stuff, about being in on YouTube and engaging in activism on behalf of secularism, on behalf of left, liberal, progressive, whatever. I honestly don't give a fuck what the label is anymore for whatever, because it's like, oh, are you lefty or are you liberal? Either, whichever one gets us moving further away from the Christ fascists that are trying to kill us all and hasten the return of God. But
yeah,
Greg Markowski said $10 and thanks for the show. Thank you so much, Greg.
And $10 from Aliashana Silverbow. I once tried to sleep with an entire orchestra, but I only made it to the second base. Musician
Nice.
jokes. Nice.
Oh, I really like that one. I do. I really like that one. LA Silver Surfers, $10, and thank you. My super chat thing just refreshed without anything new over there, so there we go.
10 euros, so that's 11.
Almost real money,
right? Exactly. From Man with the Drone, Francesca's work isn't really anti-religion, although she is an atheist. But I really recommend checking her out. She has many talks on YouTube.
Cool.
What was it, Francesca? I don't remember her last name.
If you just look up God and anatomy, I think it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Probably be the first thing.
Real quick, there's a super chat that didn't come through on my system, but I do have here one of the mods, thanks to no one, tagged me about it. $9.99 from Jeremy said, I prayed I'd be the first super chat, and here I am. Checkmate. Atheist. Matt, my girlfriend loves reptiles. I'm curious how many you and Arden have at the moment. I'm so sorry that yours didn't get through first when you paid for it. I don't know what happened, but I see it here. It's just not on the remix system.
Question is, were they really first, or was their prayer not answered?
They were really first.
Okay.
Heck, God's got them.
So the answer to the question of how many reptiles do Arden and I have is we don't know, because we stopped counting. I don't have a fresh count of individual animals, but we have 20 or 21 species of snakes and 10 or 11 species of lizards. And it's a lot, but 6 new baby snakes just hatched out yesterday. Actually, they're still in the eggs. They basically have an egg tooth and it slices through the egg, and then they stay in the egg for days, if not an entire week, while they absorb the last of the nutrients inside the egg. And then they crawl out, and about a week later, at least for ball pythons, they will have their first shed. So, yeah, don't know how many we have. For anybody who doubts the species count, I'll pull up the list after Ian does that message.
Oh, yes. Who are the people behind me? Is that was the question?
No, there was nothing there.
Oh, I thought there was something about
Squidward Q Sagan for $10. Thank you so much. Yeah, so on the list of species we work with for snakes, ball python, Woma python, western hognose, black African house snake, Cape African house snake, black-tailed crebo, corn snake, Texas rat snake, Honduran milk snake, California king snake, Mexican black king snake, Dumerals boas, boa imperator, Sonoran, Kenyan sand boa, jungle carpet python, Hydrodynastes gigas, which is the false water cobra. So wait, is that 16?
I got to go through all of them again.
That's 16, but we also have 17 is the Boiga melanota. So we've got a mangrove snake now as well. So that'd be 17. And I'm not going to go through the lizards as well, but we have a lot.
Wow.
And we're gearing up for NARBC, which is the North American Reptile Breeders Convention in Dallas at the end of March. You had a question.
No, somebody I passed over it. Somebody had asked a question about who are the two guys behind me. And sorry, I normally don't sit in the spot, but I don't. The other background that I sit in is messed up today because we're filming self tapes for my daughter. But behind me, I did a tour years ago with a couple friends of mine, the Evolution of Comedy Tour, and that's Jason Wrestler with the long hair and Maurice Northup. They're comedian friends of mine, and we did an all atheist comedian tour thing for a few years together. So that's Jason Wrestler and Maurice Northup. I don't think Maurice does comedy anymore. Jason still tours the Midwest. He's fantastically funny. So yeah, that's that.
Maurice is a quitter and I'm funny, so I'll fill in next time if you want.
There you go. Exactly.
Fucking quitters. $10 from JG. Do you agree that modern science supports the concept that there most likely are realms of reality outside of our ability to detect, such as other dimensions that would allow for miraculous events? No. The possibility has not been ruled out, and speculative possibility on things that might be called other realms are constantly part of pseudoscience and science fiction, but they haven't been confirmed. So when you say that it's most likely there are other realms, it's most likely that there are things that we don't yet understand in Grok well enough. Whether or not any of them qualify as realms is, I think, still speculative at best. And by definition, science can't confirm things that aren't detectable scientifically. So if whatever the realm does not manifest in reality in a detectable way, I'm curious as to how anybody knows about it. If it's just an abstraction, if it's just an inference, there still needs to be something concrete that it is tied to as an inference. And I don't know that any of them are tied to anything more concrete than our own ignorance.
The only way to know, man, is ayahuasca. I don't know, or some sort of or LSD, man. That's the only way you're going to know there's another realm. All right, $20 from Adam. Take care of your mental health, everyone. Thank you for doing these shows. It's a boon for the community. Also, I'm gay. Woo!
Woo! Yes, or maybe you should woo! I can't get hung.
I don't know what it is. Woo! I guess
Thank you, Adam.
That was what the guy was trying to do earlier today. Yes, two gay people. All right.
$10 from Michael Freeman. There's always great surprises on this show. The gay voice box guy startled me, but then again, I just smoked a joint, so that didn't help. Great show, guys. Oh, y'all are killing me. This is too funny.
That was so fucking disappointing. I'm sorry that end it with that guy.
Yeah.
$10 from but your little your rant bit was funny, so there you go. We got that out of it. $10 from Monkey at Typewriter. Someone's got to pay for the production hiccups today, and I think the only reasonable answer is to fire whoever hired Arden. There you go. Fire Jimothy Belland. All right.
Yep. Fire Jimothy Belland.
The I'll get Elon. We should get Elon on that right now. Firing.
Could do. $10 to Stephanie Helms. Oh, Steph. Pay attention to the canaries in your coal mine. We've been telling you this was coming since 2016. We're still here singing. Yeah, that's true. One of the things, and this is really difficult. This has been an incredibly difficult thing for me. And I'm going to talk to my friend who I'm not going to tell you their name just yet, even though somebody's probably already guessed it. I don't care. Being a skeptic who covers politics and religion is different from being a leftist who covers politics or religion. And so there's a bunch of channels that I watch and have watched. And I have a bunch of left-leaning channels that I have seen content from. Some of them I watch semi-regularly. Some of them I have used to watch and have removed. And I'm talking about, like Brian Tyler Cohen, Occupy Democrats, Midas Touch, David Pakman, others. And some of them I want nothing to do with anymore. Not that they're terrible people, but the clickbait game that they have to play to chase the algorithm, I think does a disservice to the truth and the significance of what they're talking about. I guarantee you every day it's not breaking news that will absolutely, Trump gets the devastating world-ending news that we've been waiting for. No, he fucking didn't. I'm so sick of those fucking clickbait headlines like that. No, he fucking did not get this. You've run that goddamn headline, Brian, 50 fucking times, and not once has the man suffered even the slightest indignancy over what should have been devastating. I agree with you that these things should be devastating, and I'm sorry to pick on Brian alone because he's not the only one that does it. But when you go from no viewers to 1 million viewers in politics, in order to maintain that, you got to fucking keep treading that treadmill. And what you got to do is post clickbait titles that end up doing a disservice by making the left look nuts and reactionary. So that when we point out, hey, Project 2025, this shit's actually happening. Hey, they're already coming after the trans folks. Hey, pretty sure that the gay community's next. Hey, hello over here. We look like irrational buffoons. When the truth is so unbelievable. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's funny because I literally had this conversation an hour before the show tonight. So my friend pointed out Midas Touch this week or this month beat Joe Rogan, 57 million downloads or views or whatever. And I'm right there with you. Like I watch those shows, but I said to him, I go, my problem with them now is that every freaking headline on a couple of these shows, Midas Touch one, is those clickbaits that say those exact. This is the devastate, and I literally had this conversation. This makes us look stupid and reactionary, and it makes it. This is the reason that it's hard to come out and say, "Hey, this is what we've been talking about," because they go, "Well, you've been screaming that for that the world's ending for 8 years," and it's like, "Well, no, I've been warning you that this was going to happen. Oh, you've been screaming the world's ending, and now the world's ending," and it's like, now these things are actually coming to fruition, and you've got 5-8 years of clickbait headlines that don't pan out when you watch the video. Like you said, Trump never he never got owned, and I mean I saw 2 yesterday that were the ultimate takedown of the Senate, and I watch it, and it was like they had a little bit of an argument, and it was Jamie Raskin made a good point, good, but he didn't destroy Jim, Jordan's career or whatever, and it's like stop with that. It's too frustrating.
I get it. Everything has to be breaking news and everything else, and I picked on Brian. I could have picked on Midas. I could have picked on Occupy Democrats. The only one who consistently doesn't disappoint me is David. But he will at some point, just like I've disappointed him. It's just going to happen. But it's like chasing that algorithm, I think, is doing us a big disservice. And we're playing right into the Steve Bannon playbook of they're going to flood us with bullshit to make us look ridiculous so they can steal our rights and our money away right from underneath everybody. And anybody who objects looks ridiculous. Do you think, I mentioned it earlier, I'm more legitimately afraid of a civil war than I was about Trump being elected in 2016. I was on stage with Dawkins a week or so before it happened, saying there's no way in hell that would happen. I also said there's no way in hell they're going to overturn Roe. I wasn't worried at all about those things. And now I'm legitimately worried about a civil war of some kind. And the best we can hope for is that it's the civilist. Because you don't want to be brother killing brother the way there was last time. $10 from Ms. Non Sequitur. Oops, you'll only do 10. I want to hear about lizards, any dragons. Okay, I'm going to do these off the top of my head, just going through what's in different places. Here are our lizards. There's an Argentine tegu, just a black and white tegu, a Rankin's dragon, 3 bearded dragons, a green forest dragon, Calotes calotes. If you don't know about them, go look them up. They're amazing. We can't wait to get more of them and produce a bazillion. So that's 4. Then crested geckos, Chinese cave geckos, Saracenorum geckos, emerald tree skinks. Did I forget any, honey? That's 8.
Ornate Euromastics.
And ornate Euromastix is 9. I thought there were 10.
The
Pictus geckos. Yeah. Pictus geckos. There you go. There's all the lizards. So I've told you about the snakes and the lizards. Don't ask about mammals.
All right. $10 from Sintoki. Figured out my super chat glitch. YouTube doesn't like my Firefox. Love supporting the line. Take care, y'all.
Thank you, and thanks for figuring it out there, Sintoki. $10 from Robert Bow. I trusted Trump when he told us he was a sexual predator back before the 2016 election. Since then, he's lost credibility with me. What's taken half the country so long? Exactly.
Yeah. He's been telling us. He's been telling us this whole time.
Here's who I am. No mask.
$10 from Brinpoo KC. I love when Matt uses grok. I was laughing at that earlier too, by the way. Robert Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land.
I like it. $10 from Xander. The billionaires have been waging conflict on everyone else by fooling and confusing the stupid and the ignorant, which is amazing considering how many of the billionaires are stupid and ignorant. The earth and its people cannot afford the 1% anymore. Yes. The 1% is going to bankrupt the 99%.
It is amazing. I mean, I guess it's not amazing to me, but it's how we conflate, how people conflate being rich to being smart, being successful in some sort of business to being smart. When I see Elon and Trump and a lot of half these, if not more than half these technocrat billionaires, they're not smart. It's crazy to me. Like they spell at a 3rd grade level. They can't do basic math. Like it's bizarre to me that they got. I mean, aside from just having tons of money to throw out stuff, but it's like, it's bizarre to me that as a society, we still revere them as some sort of intelligent masters of their domain or something. I don't know.
We've
gotta
built
stop,
a
though.
world. We've built a world where if you're wealthy, the presumption by many is that you deserve that. And if you are homeless, the presumption is you deserve that too. And the reality is the system greatly diverges to where nothing is about what someone deserves. There's just going to be a whole bunch of people who don't have because one person has enough for 1 million. And I mean, you just got to get used to that's just the way it is until we actually do something to change it. But as long as everybody thinks they're going to win that lottery, they're going to get, they're going to grow up to be president. You're going to get your turn as president. You're going to inherit $1 billion. As long as anything like that in the American dream persists with regularity, people will sacrifice their health, the health of the country. We're sacrificing climate change initiatives. We're sacrificing equity. We're sacrificing marriage equality. We're sacrificing health care. We're sacrificing our future, both with regard to the environment and with regard to our children. We're sacrificing their education. We're sacrificing all of it. So somebody with more money than anybody else can have more money than the other people who have more money than anybody else. $10 from Rolling Back. I'm interested in getting snake from you, but I can't go to Texas. Is there another way? Yes, we're able to ship them. We have a store on morphmarket.com, but there aren't snakes up there right now. The best thing for you to do right now, because we're gearing up for NARBC, is to message either myself or Arden, either at our Epic Loot Instagram or Facebook Messenger, whatever, and let us know what you're looking for. We may or may not have it. If we do, we'll do everything we can to get you hooked up.
$20 from Tammy B. Reptile Food.
Yeah, we also raise the reptile food as well. $20 from Bionic Latino. My dark optimism tells me that we are more likely headed towards balkanization than a full-on Christo-fascist police state. The country's too big to subjugate centrally. I think strategically, if you wanted to take over, taking it from a military standpoint, you take out the airports and the communications. That's the way it's kind of almost always been. Because that's, I mean, obviously before airports, we weren't taking them out. I'm not Trump. I don't think we took them out during the Revolutionary War. What I'm saying is, but what I am saying is, taking out communications will cripple more people more severely than ever in the history of the world. If you go back 100 years, you weren't getting your news at the pace that you were getting it now, and with as much variety as you're getting it now. And you knew how to take care of yourself. And you probably had a vegetable garden and some chickens out back at a minimum. Or you knew somebody who did. I don't even know my neighbors. I know a couple of neighbors, and largely everybody else don't know. If the power goes down and communications go down, how do you know who's in charge of anything? How do you know what's legal and what's not? How do you know that you own what you think you own? What do you use for money? Have you got those little bits of paper still? Does anybody want your little bits of paper? Do they want your bits on your computer? Do they want your Bitcoin? Or do they want your actual property? How are you going to gas up your vehicles? When the infrastructure goes down, all of a sudden, it's food and fear. Those are potential realities. I genuinely hope nothing close to that ever happens. But for somebody who said he'd have the Ukrainian war solved within the first day, seems like his solution is to pin it all on Zelensky and completely support Russia and say, fuck Ukraine. Which is exactly what some of us said would happen.
Well, it's not to because he's the person and responsible for so much of this, but to quote not to quote because I don't know the quote, but Ronald Reagan, his quote about when you I'll show you how to get peace really quick. You surrender. That's what Trump is telling Zelensky to do. It's roll over and take it because I said so. It's mind-boggling to me that we are probably going to be a state of Russia anyway.
And how many treaties and war crime, how many treaties are going to get violated, how many war crimes are going to get broken, how much, I mean, this is a shit show of epic proportions.
I mean, Erdogan came out on the other side of that today. When Erdogan's the voice of reason in the conflict, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, $10 from SJL. I used to watch BTC and Midas, but then you made me really notice the clickbait and the ads for nonsense woo. Put it over the top.
I still will watch them more often than some others. And I'm not as upset with them on a, like on a personal level or even, I'm not trying to rag on anybody else's channel. I don't view them as competition. We are all in this together. I'm frustrated at the way the clickbait works and how they have to do it. And but man, you talk about desensitizing. I don't think there's a headline short of a nuclear detonation that would draw much out of me anymore beyond, not surprised. They want you to perform.
What's that?
They want you to perform. That's the Family Guy theme.
Oh gosh, I don't know it.
Seems today that all you see are violence in movies and sex on TV.
See, I don't. That's how out of it I am. I stopped watching TV at The Simpsons. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Family Guy's way better than The Simpsons. I've just completed sacrilege for somebody there.
For me, first 10 seasons of The Simpsons. That's after that.
All right, $10 Canadian from Jessica Gallagher. The conversation about rapture reminded me of a movie I saw. It was funny because the people that were raptured left behind a pile of their neatly folded clothes. Thanks for everything you do here. Yes. But you got to think about it. If God is going to miracle people up off the planet and leave their clothes behind, it's no extra effort for him to fold those clothes.
Seriously. Well, and also if you notice, if you know anything about ghosts, I've seen a lot of ghost stories, and ghosts have clothes. So what I've come to realize is that there must be some sort of celestial sales rack that in the afterlife that you can buy new clothes, because all the clothes have their own spirit apparently that you can wear as a ghost. So
they get them from Spirit Halloween shop.
What's that?
They get them from the Spirit Halloween shop.
Oh, that's it. Exactly.
It's just a bunch of people running around with like Freddy Krueger and
exactly. making things cold. Ooh, my kneecap just got cold. 10. Ooh, this is pounds now. British pound sterling from the Fuzzy Logic. Donald Trump literally shoved my mother out of her chair at a New York Plaza Hotel gala dinner in 1991. She's full on MAGA. 100% agree about the lefty channel clickbait. Anyway, here's some money. That is not a metaphor. That's a real. I hope it sounds like a real story, but that is. I feel like that's a metaphor for half of, or at least a third of America right now. Donald Trump shoved them out of their chair and they voted for him.
Yep. $10 for Monkey Typewriter. As a lifelong pessimist and misanthrope, I feel this whole decade has basically confirmed a lot of what I thought. You can always count on Americans to boldly seek the next lowest low. True. We are, in many ways, the absolute worst while pretending to not be.
That is the truth. $10 from Jamnik06. Matt, do you feel that the Humanist Report stayed acceptable or have they gotten clickbaity? Side note, I registered for Free Flow today. Woo woo.
Nice. I had one issue, one just minor little nitpicky personal issue with, I've forgotten his name on the Humanist Report, but I genuinely like and respect it. Kyle. Wait, no. Wait. I might be
not Kyle
confusing.
Kalinske?
No, that Kyle's
Who am I
not the
thinking?
Humanist Report.
The Majority Report is Sam Cedar. I think the Humanist Report is Kyle Kalinske.
No, the Humanist Report, isn't it? It's that he's a gay man.
Ed Figueredo or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yes, Mike Figueredo or something like that.
Yes. That one I like. Kyle, I used to like. Then Kyle became basically Rogan's codpiece for a little while, and I found that to be very disappointing, especially from someone who is on my side and working in the secular stuff. And then since then, it seems that maybe Kyle has seen the light and is no longer as fond of Rogan, kind of the way Sam Harris is no longer as fond of Elon. I don't know, y'all have your fallings out or whatever else, but those of us who are fucking right all along will be here waiting for your apology and recognition. I'm mostly kidding.
I'm still trying to figure out which one the Humanist Report. Kyle's a some secular report or something. Yeah, no, he has. I'm the same way with him though. He has come back. He has left the Joe Rogan. He's left Joe Rogan's dick, which is good. But the fact that you were ever there in the first place is an issue.
It is.
All right.
And it's, you're not alone there. I mean, hell, even Dawkins is on board with, maybe Elon Musk will serve as a really good, foil for Donald Trump. I can't do Dawkins. I shouldn't attempt to do his accent.
Yeah. Did he say that? That's
we did a whole show of.
I do hope they have a major falling out, and it does something to whatever is going on with I can't see their two egos lasting in the room for too long, in the same room. So I'm really looking forward to that day when Trump and Musk no longer love each other.
You have the most powerful man in the world, and then you have Trump. And when you have the most powerful man in the world and somebody like Trump, who's supposed to be the most powerful man in the world and thinks he's the most powerful man in the world, but he's actually not because he's bought and paid for, and nobody and nothing can touch Elon. Elon owns the United States. They're giving him access to all your stuff.
Yeah. The bromance won't last. That's what I can't wait.
It's going to be a train wreck.
$10 from Sherpa Cool. First time I ever spent a dime on the line, and that's not that I'm against it, just not so blessed. But for this, Ian, how about one of those atheist jokes? Oh, put on the spot. God, it's gonna be. I'll do a joke, but it's gonna be so lame because it's just lame doing a joke like this. But and not funny. Can I just point out that my
This
jokes
is the best joke ever.
to atheists, my jokes to atheists who are smart, intelligent people, I can't say anything you haven't heard already. You're gonna go, oh, that's a nice little point. My jokes are made for normal people who have never thought about this shit. But my favorite joke is when I'm in the middle of an act and I'm doing with normal regular people and I'm talking about religion and atheism, and they go and they start getting groany and they start getting weird on me, and I go, look, sorry, I don't mean to offend you. I go, in fact, I will say that I will concede that I do believe that the world would be a much better place if more Christians were more Christ-like. And if we can all agree on that, I think we can all share that the world would be a much better place if more Christians were more Christ-like. And by that, of course, I mean imaginary. That's my favorite joke to say in a live audience because it always bait and switches them, and there you go.
I like it. I was gonna go with dead, but I'm hardcore than you are. Anyway, so we've only got like 5 or 6 of these left, but we only have like 9 minutes left. So let's get cranking. $10 from Xander. I firmly believe that the modern stories of comic book superheroes like Iron Man and Batman have cajoled people into believing the super rich are smart and ethical. You may be correct, but I think it's more of trying to see yourself in better situations. Like that could be me, I think, is the pipe dream.
Yeah, I would love to see a Batman, but I think at this point, if Elon turned into Batman, his Batmo Cybertruck would explode accidentally trying to get to the crime. $10 from Sky High Fly Guy. Really enjoyed the show, Matt. My OCD can't handle the fact that the only place on your shirt where the red stripe is above the yellow is on your left collar. Have a good night.
So actually, also over here on the left epaulette. So that bit of fabric where it's red above yellow, and over here it's red above yellow, even though everywhere else it's yellow above red. Yep, you found it. You sussed it out. Thank you. Your OCD is now worse than mine or anybody I know's. $10 from Luis Morales. There's likely a new wave of stochastic political violence down the pike, probably something like the Troubles, but with a lot more malignant surveillance. Thanks for that, at Monkey at Typewriter. Yeah.
$10 from Tammy B. Can I give a shout out to the classification of Life series by Aaron Ra? It's brilliant.
Nope,
go watch it over and over.
I'm kidding. Aaron's a regular on the line and one of my best friends. I just wanted to. Nope, you can't say anything nice about Aaron Ra. Yes, go watch Aaron Ra's stuff. Thank you, Tammy. Actually, Aaron stopped by just the other day to pick up some rodents. $10 from Benjamin Reynolds. Is quantum immortality is both true and false and the same time? Okay. Once I go through there and filter for grammar, the question becomes, is quantum immortality both true and false at the same time? And the answer is no. Nothing is both true and not true at the same time in the same way. But that's not what quantum indeterminism and indeterminacy is anyway. But good attempt at a joke, though.
$10 from Jamnik06. When it comes to clickbait titles and other tactics to chase the algorithm, could it be similar to us voting even though the system sucks? Like, the game sucks, but you can't win if you don't play.
Yeah. It could be the case. It may be that clickbait titles that get eyes on the subject are much better than anything that I could come up with at actually getting good information to people. I'm just looking at the bigger picture where it appears that that's not actually working, that the world seems to be getting dumber and less accurately informed, and more frustrated. And so constantly saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, may be the best way to wake people up to when the sky is falling, but it also might be the best way to get a bunch of people to ignore it. And as long as I don't know which one it's doing, but the world seems to be trending as if it's making things worse, I'm going to go with that supposition and complain, at least until we come up with a better target to complain about.
I think the latter's true.
Good
In fact,
job,
'cause
Ian. Good job, Ian. Your joke made me smile. There you go.
There you go.
From Nathy's Hero.
Smiling is good, laughing is better, but there you go.
So,
I can make one
title of today's show, which, by the way, Arden picks up the title, puts them on the shows as a way of stirring up engagement and getting people in there. Are you smarter than your God or Trump? And as we can see, the answer is no. None of the callers were, in fact, smarter than their God or Trump. And anytime that they're advocating for a God like that, it's just embarrassing. No. Keep that flag flying. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain. We had callers calling in today to tell us exactly how gay is as gay as they gaily can be gay. That's what we should do constantly. Who knows if there's going to be a civil war, if there's going to be a world war, if there's going to be no war, if there's going to be a price war. Is the price of eggs ever going to go down? Is it going to be legal to be who you are? Not in this town, but maybe in some other town if we do it in secret. And then we shout it out loud, I'm gay, and we can all have a wonderful time. Thanks so much to Ian for joining me this week on the show, to Arden for producing, to our call screener, to our moderators, to all the gay people out there, and most sincerely to President Elon Trump and all that you're doing to make everything worse for everybody. Damn it. How do you keep doing this? I don't know, but there's more shows coming up here on the line. You can go to patreon.com/calltheline. You can go to linemerge.com. Don't forget to tune in to Transatlantic Call-In Show tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central, where we'll have an updated schedule for everything going on through